Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdcast Dave. Today I'm joined by Tim P GMing. How are you doing today, sir?
I don't think we're live because I have the YouTube up and
Ah, yeah,
I
there's a
didn't get
delay.
anything from it. Ah, well then, won't I look silly? I'm good. How are you?
Good. No worries, man. You have no idea how many times I've had it not muted someplace and it starts playing, and then I have to hear my voice, and I hate hearing my voice.
Yeah, you never sound like you think you sound like.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
It
and it's
doesn't
just
matter how
like,
many. It doesn't matter how many times you hear yourself and know you don't sound what you think you sound like. You still don't think you sound
uh,
like that.
but my point is, we've done these for, I don't know, it's got to be well over 300 of them, closing in on 400 of these, and there's still mistakes that happen. So it's no big deal. And also, technology is its own thing. The gremlins and the machines. I'll do this, and then have everything set up from the way it was the previous day, and something will just change for no reason. Like, oh, okay, we have
Yeah,
no
it's like
sound,
I
dude.
feel like being different today. Gosh
Yeah.
darn it.
So for people that aren't familiar with what you do, I mean, you've done a couple successful Kickstarters. You have some stuff over on Drive Through RPG that people can check out, and also you're a professional GM over on Roll 20. But I met you because I don't even. Oh my god, I feel terrible because I don't remember who introduced us. Um,
It was. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but
Whoever it is, thank you, and I'm sorry. I'm a terrible garbage human being. But so we had already did a conversion for out of box encounters for Fantasy Grounds. Uh, Rob Tui hooked it up over there, and then people had been asking about Roll 20. So I was like, yeah, I guess we'll get around to that eventually. And I had mentioned it to someone, and they're like, hey, you should talk to Tim. He's great. And so you have been great to work with, and it's almost ready. And I've been a nightmare to work with. I'm very slow at getting back to things. You're like poking me with emails. You're like, am I gonna have to remind you every time? I'm like, maybe. I don't know. So I do appreciate that, Tim, and have enjoyed working with you thus far.
yeah, I mean, besides the slowness, it's been great.
So soon people will be able to get out of the box encounters on Roll 20, and thanks mostly to Tim and his prodding.
Yeah, and it was Spike.
Yes, that's it. Spike something Rose.
I actually don't know his last name.
Spike Murphy Rose. That's what it is.
Okay, I mean, I just
Uh,
know him from Roll 20. I'm not Roll 20, Discord. I just know him from Discord
yeah.
because
Well,
I
that's
did.
weird too, right? Like the online world
Yeah, because
is
I
like
did some stuff for Nord for Nord games. I put their stuff on Roll 20.
that
Yeah,
makes sense.
so
I also know Spike from Nord.
yeah, so for anyone who's listening and knows Roll 20, it'll be it'll be a bundle that you can buy, and then the bundle will be 55 add-ons you can easily just drop into your game, and anyone familiar with add-ons will know it'll put in the map and then it'll put in the little in the folders it'll put in, let's say, Ace is High for the first one, and then it'll have the NPCs, the treasure, the overview, the description, etc., etc. And then you can put your creatures on there and go from there. Put your NPCs on there. You can always add more creatures if you want to.
So, so do you actually get any gaming in for fun? Because I know you're doing paid GMing and you do it 5 days a week. That's a significant amount.
I don't do much D&D for. Well, I mean, I enjoy DMing, so I do it for fun. Thank you very much.
Right.
But outside of my work, I don't do a lot of D&D on the side just because it's a lot of D&D already, but
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
still have have plenty of, just personal time and play games with friends. Tried recently Cyberpunk and didn't hate it like a bunch of other people did.
The so I guess I kind of use DM universally. Are you playing other games?
I don't have any like pen and paper. Well, pseudo pen and paper games going at the moment.
Yeah, we like pen and paper is not really pen nor paper anymore.
Yeah,
We're like
especially
screens.
during the pandemic.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Like
kind of
it already started its movement over to the internet, and then it's just like, well, you can't see other people anymore, so you better get used to being online.
well. Has that affected you? Like, and I mean, maybe I hate to use the word positive, but like in a positive way, because you do a lot on Roll 20 anyway. Didn't in the initial like shutdown, like Roll 20 was having some issues, right? With because there's just the volume.
Oh yeah, like it didn't really affect my main business, but definitely at the start of the pandemic, there's definitely a jump in my sales
Yeah,
of my. Well, part of that is just because there's at that time there wasn't nearly as many people rushing to publish on Roll20 as there is now. Like now, not to speak ill of like not to speak ill of the other company, but some of them are really lazy about it. Like they will still have like the DM indicators on the map, like the labeled rooms. I'm
yeah,
just like, because like I buy them for the maps pretty much, just because I'm like, well, I can make my own story, but I don't have a map, so I'll buy this map, and it'll come with an adventure that I mostly ignore. But some of them still have like the DM like token on it, and I'm just like, this is so lazy. This is so bad. Most of them are
yeah,
good, but there's one specifically that I don't want to name, but I'm just like, wow. And it's a fairly popular one, which irritates me because I'm like, how are you this popular and you're this lazy about it?
yeah. Is it laziness? I mean, some people just don't know what they don't know, and they're not like maybe they never play online, right? Or don't use virtual tabletops, and just like they're not thinking
Well,
about that.
I mean, if there are definitely some things that I can agree with you on that, but like it's the fact that the map is still has like the big C6 in the middle of the room.
Yeah,
That's I'm like, okay, that's
yeah,
pretty much unforgivable. Like there's some things that you're definitely right about. They just they don't know how to like link between handouts. Sure,
uh,
that's the Roll20 specific thing. Understandable. Having a big C6 in the middle of the dungeon room, that's a bit different.
yeah. But I guess my point is like, and obviously, like if once it's pointed out, if it's not fixed, and you don't realize that fix that going forward, that yeah, that is definitely laziness. But like if you just are not used to experiencing the game in that way in that medium, you just probably you might not even think about it. Because honestly, I wouldn't think about it until I saw it to be honest with you. But I do know a lot of people that are like in the industry, and they pretty much only play in person, or they were only playing in person, and maybe don't even look at VTTs. I mean, our group, while we have used them and played with them, and I even ran like a mini campaign on Fantasy Grounds. I am not very proficient with them, and you know, I guess I'm like old and set in my ways, and learning a new thing is hard sometimes. So I've been not very good. Like in our own groups that have gone virtual, we still more or less play very
Theater of
theater
the
of the
mind.
mind. Ted has started like he's very much into terrain and minis, and so he started setting up an extra camera and like doing that stuff on his table, and just like moving the minis and stuff for us.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just so many different ways to experience the game nowadays.
Well, but I mean, like you're not wrong, but also like player-friendly maps have been the concept has been around
Yeah,
forever.
true that.
Like
So
I remember I got it was Adel. What is his name? 1 second, I have it right here. Yeah, Thilo from Enzegeist or whatever his German thing is.
uh-huh.
Like he specifically, because I remember I was meandering around the internet and looking at different reviews to see what people look for when I was finally putting this together into something to being published, and he was talking about player friendly maps, and
Yeah.
specifically complimented me. I was like, he has all these player friendly maps in the back of the book. It's great. And I'm just like, that's been around for a long time, so I would assume everyone would know about it. But
Yeah.
yes, you are also correct that I've been doing VTT for 3.5 years or so, and not everyone has been doing that.
What was the impetus for you to get into it? And now, like, you're not only you're into it, you're in there converting for other people.
Uh, it was mainly just I saw it and I did some research and I was like, this actually might be a viable, job. And so I tried it out for a while and I was like, yes, this is now a viable job. And as for the conversions, I actually went to Nord and I was like, do you guys have any intentions of putting this stuff up on Roll20 or do I need to do it myself? And they're like, well, we don't have any plans on it. Like, and I was like, well, not to shill for myself here, but I can do that for you. And then it just kind of turned into this.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is with that? Like, when you run a small business, like, you've got so many things you're already doing, and just looking at another thing to do is so insurmountable.
Yeah, you're
Just
like,
like,
another thing.
yeah. They were probably so happy when you're like, if you pay me, I will put this thing over there. And they're like, wait a minute, we don't have to do anything.
We just have to send you money. Yeah, they already had all their decks and stuff up on it. They just didn't have any of their adventures on it. So I was like, I know you have your decks up. Do you intend on putting your adventures up or?
Yeah. Nord's great. They've got a lot of great stuff over there. We've been friends with those guys for a while. Last year in the before times, I was actually able to meet a few of their staff and Chris, the owner, which we've been talking to them for a long time, and they've done a bunch of sponsored videos and stuff with us in the past. But they put out a lot of good content, a lot of like they definitely were able to hit early on things where in the game no one else had really gotten around to, like their Treacherous Traps Kickstarter. I'm so surprised that no one had really done anything to that scale yet. It just seemed like
there's definitely, yeah, like I mean, if you troll through like drive through and other things, you're like, there's a lot of stuff on here that I would not have thought
yeah.
of doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're always going to have that. I mean, in third, oh, I think someone redid it, but in third edition, they had the book to, or the guide to erotica or fetishes or something.
Oh god,
super bizarre.
The book of erotic fantasies is what I think it was.
You're right. I just look at that title, I look at that book, and then I look over at Ted. I'm like, no, we're not role playing this.
Oh yeah, I got the name exactly right.
Yeah, everything you said it.
Myself.
I think Spoonie, Counter Monkey. I don't know if you've ever seen any of his videos. He did a thing on it, which was pretty funny. He's kind of an old timer. He was like, when we first got into it, he was one of the few channels that we found that was fairly decent size. And by decent size, I mean at that time he had like 33,000 subscribers, and we're like, whoa, people do this online. And now like 33,000 subscribers is like nothing.
Yeah.
So
there's been some popular ones that have come up.
Yeah. So you said you're doing 5 games a week. Is that a game a day, or do you do multiple games on the same day?
It's they're grouped up on the same day usually. Right now it's on Sunday, not Sunday. Well, yeah, Sunday, Thursday, Friday.
Okay.
So I actually have three together on Sunday.
Wow, that's a lot of gaming. It's a long work day.
Yeah, it starts at 8 in the morning, and then after the 4 hour, they're all 4 hour games.
Yeah,
except for Sunday evening is 3 hours. because of players' time schedules. It's 8 to noon, and then an hour break, and then 1 to 5, and then a 2-hour break, and then 7 to 10.
So are you full or you still have openings?
I have a couple of openings in different games. Like my Friday afternoon game has an opening.
Now, as usual, folks, we have links in the description if you want to check things out. Click away. So you basically got into VTTs and paid GMing at the same time. It sounded like.
I'd been doing the VTT for about a year before that. I just started off with finding a game, well, making a game online. I also joined one early on.
So I was just gonna say, do you find it's like a specific type of person that usually comes to you for GMing, like new players, or is it kind of run the gambit?
Yeah, it definitely runs the gambit. I'd say it's more likely if they don't have a stable group for obvious reasons. For obvious reasons, it's more likely that if they don't already have a stable group somewhere else. But it'll run the gambit. Like I have people who join me who have like 2 other games during the week, and they're still just like, I'm happy with more D&D. Especially when each DM has such a distinct style. It's not like watching a movie. It's very different between sessions.
So, what would you say your style of gaming is?
I'd say it's more focused on the world, on not quite logic, but on reasoned events, and also I'm one of my big selling points is that I'm very good at mechanics. Like if someone says an ability, I'll be like, I know how to use that. I know what your ability does. I can tell you what your ability does. You don't need to open the book or anything. That's one of my
system
my
mastery.
strongest suits. Yeah, and also, not to pat myself on the back, but also I'm very fair, and in both against and for the players.
What do you think of Tasha's?
I'm not a huge fan, mainly just because well, of course it's not great. Some of the stuff is not greatly balanced, but it seems like such a cop out because every argument online, admittedly, not the best thing to do with your time, but every argument online is just like, oh, but the book says talk to your GM. You don't need to include these. I'm like, that is such a cop out.
Yeah. You're rather a definitive, like this is part of the game now, or
yeah, and I mean, for the average player, the new race thing is fine. For min maxers, I want to slap them because they're all gonna be mountain dwarves with 17 and 2 stats.
Well, they might go half elf. So there's 2 2+1s and a +2 is pretty nice too. Yeah.
And the new the variant background is now just variant human with dark vision.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I don't know. It's like maybe they should have just introduced an alternate stat set and been like, here's the configurations you can now use, and we just don't use modifiers anymore. If you're gonna go that route, I kind of like how Pathfinder does it. I mean, I've talked about this a few times, but like where it's like, you pick your heritage, you pick your background, you pick your class, and they all give you like a set bonus or a set choice, and then like a floating bonus. So, I mean, it feels a little bit better than going, put it wherever you want, do whatever you want.
Yeah, it's like, because the thing that annoys me is because I'm mildly autistic / have Asperger's. So I'm very logical and very regimented. So I'm like, it's genetics. You can't play with genetics like that. But
it's all willy-nilly. It's
also a game, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, be like, it's funny because one of my players like, well, is it because of dwarven culture that that they're stronger and have more conflict? No, because they also have poison resistance and they don't feed their children poison. It's because of genetics.
Maybe they do. How do you? Maybe that's the secret to their resistance.
Quick, feed
Like
the child poison.
they're the koala bear. They're the koala bear of the fantasy world, right? Because eucalyptus leaves aren't they kind of like poisonous? And that's
Yeah,
what koalas eat.
I think they are. He,
Yeah,
smell this, but don't taste. It's iocane powder. We feed it to our children. You
yeah,
what now?
yeah. Well, I feel like race is a misnomer, and everyone wants to like compare fantasy races to real world cultures,
I agree.
and which are completely different. Because it's like no, it's more like comparing a gorilla to a dog.
Yeah, like
Like they're
back in the
just
day,
different.
like back in the day, and especially in something like Warhammer, there's obviously that. That's obviously a thing. You're completely right when if you go to like Warhammer and be like, look, Araby, it's Arabia. Well, yes, of course it is. They were
Yeah.
really lazy back then. But I would call it a false number to compare orcs to people. I'm like, they're orcs. They're not actual real world cultures here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know. You know, and then the other thing is like obviously it's a game, so like everyone can change it in their game however they
Yeah,
want to, and like that's what we've done for years. I think Matt Colville said it best: is like you know, do all orcs have to be evil? No, but they are in my game, or something along those lines.
or like I mean, like if you just make it, be like that's the thing. If you make it so that everyone is just whatever you want it to be, and orcs aren't like naturally don't tend towards evil or something, well then they're just a weirdly shaped human.
Uh, maybe, maybe not. But so the weird thing about the races in D&D is they you know the creation because they all have their own creation myths,
Yeah,
right? And just like we do in the real world, but the difference in like a fantasy world is like you literally might see your god. Yeah, so and you could definitely see a cleric casting spells,
mm-hmm.
right? Which that stuff does not happen in the real world. And if you're created by an evil deity, now you could resist that deity and decide to not go down that path. But I feel like it would be much harder
Yeah,
in a fantasy world where you have a physical manifestations of these supremely godlike beings or god beings, and they are evil. Like
yeah,
that would strongly influence how cultures are. And then you have races like gnolls, which they shouldn't even be humanoids; they should just be fiends.
yeah. Because I mean, like that's the thing. Definitely about gnolls. Like they are literally like mutated from hyenas
Yeah,
by an archdevil or demon. I can't remember which one.
demon lord. Yeah, Yanagu's a demon lord.
Yeah, demon lord. There we go. And so I'm like, this is obvious, but like it's like a big part of it is the culture also because like if you went to I'm I'm not gonna use any of the hot button comparisons and just go to ancient Rome. Ancient Romans were very brutal by our standards. Were they naturally as people more like more heartless? Like they'd often leave a child that was rejected by the father just out on the street to die. Were they naturally genetically more brutal like that, or was it just Roman culture said that was okay? It's because the Roman culture said it was okay, not because ancient Romans had the genetics of
Yeah.
being jerks in them.
The genetic jerk. The jerk gene.
Man, what a bunch
So,
of jerks.
so you have a trilogy of adventures you've written, and they're over on Drive Through RPG. Um, all three of them are there, or two and almost.
Two of them are there. The third one will be published when I can ship out the proofs to all my Kickstart backers because of the pandemic has delayed the delivery of the proofs, and so I can't approve them until I know they're not, a bunch of problems in them.
Yeah, yeah. The world has delayed the world.
Yep.
So, what is the premise for the trilogy?
It's it's based in in a world called Aleem that me and my friends have made over many decades. Well, not decades. That was that was an exaggeration. But for about the past decade, we've been working on this version of it. We've had like 5 different versions, And
Yeah.
if you go back to the early versions, they are just rife with plagiarism, and it's because we were like 12 and 13 and 14 when we were making them. There's literally Mordor in them. There's like literally worlds from the Merlin series,
you
all
know,
different kinds of
you
plagiarism
know,
in them.
Tim, that's not that different than the very first version of D&D.
Oh yeah,
Like there is
totally.
some lawsuits. There's some lawsuits about that.
And like when we were a bunch of 12-year-olds doing it in our own houses, made no difference, obviously. And then when we matured, even before I did this, before we had any intention of publishing, we moved away from just stealing from other people because we were like, this is lazy of us. And so this is called what the story is on a Leam. There's multiple ages, blah blah blah. This is called the Fall of Myth because there is a culture of Mythians that are basically superhumans. Only during a attack on the world, they just get screwed, and they can start getting attacked by undead shades and Inferis, which are fiends of that world. And so the players take part as visiting like ambassadors.
Mhm.
When they go to sleep, they're put into the situation by, well, the default entry is a storyteller. An old dwarf starts telling them a story, and then suddenly they're in the story, and so they go to sleep, and then the mansion they're in gets attacked by the undead, and there's an entire thing about them trying to say, well, assuming that they don't just leave and are jerks. Because I'm like, it'd be like one of the criticisms for was like, well, there's not a great direction. I'm like, well, you're in a manor that's under attack. If you want to leave, you can. But if you're not jerks, you're gonna go try and help people. So you go in and you try and save the important NPCs, and then after that, if you succeed in saving enough, you make a little base camp and you go out on three little missions where you're trying to gather resources pretty much. And then the third one is about retaking the capital so far. And then after that, it's going to be about trying to actually turn off what is causing all the undead to show up to this island.
And what level does the adventure start at?
It starts at level 5, getting you to level 6, and then the next two get you to level 7, and then the final 3 are meant to get you to level 8, and that's the end of the adventure.
Or is it? No. So, what's your plans for after the trilogy is completed?
After the 6 are completed, it's not a trilogy. I mean, come on.
Oh, I don't know why I got trilogy in my mind.
Well, it's because I have 3 out right now, so that kind
Oh
of
yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense. But and so after that, I'm not sure where we're going, but we by being mostly me, and then with some conference with my other 2 friends who've worked on the world, we're probably gonna go somewhere else, mainly because there's not a whole lot uh after the story. Either you've won or you've lost. So you've fought
Mhm.
off the people attacking Myth, and you've turned off the source of all the undead, or you've failed and Myth is overrun by undead. There's nothing left for you to go do there, except if you stay there, you get killed by hordes of undead. So it's definitely going to have to be take place somewhere else or at a different time. I
Zombie
haven't
apocalypse.
decided that yet. Well,
I don't
it's
know. You could put together the adventure that happens after the players have failed.
well,
It's,
like it. I because not everyone is for this. I personally really like this style, but like actually at the end of every piece of the adventure, you can have failed. Like if you as a party don't manage to save any of the important people, the main villain of the first adventure shows up and he's just like, I'm gonna kill all of you now. And without any help from the NPCs, there's a group of like Mythians that are just like, run! He's gonna kill everyone, and then they'll try and fight him off, and the players can escape at that time. So you can actually fail the campaign at any major point.
well, and you should be able to. It's D&D, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not predetermined. There's no, it's not a pre-written storyline maybe. Um, so what are some of the unique aspects of these adventures that people might be interested in?
Well, it has. Now, before I say 13 treasures, you only get one adventure, and that's only if you do well and save people. But so I have 13 treasures that actually level up with the players. And the design, the reason there's 13 of them is because the first one is Eggman, the Divided Blade, and it's for a Gish caster, which is a very niche. It's a very niche play type. There's not
Mm-hmm.
that many people who are going Blade Singer or Melee Cleric, etc., etc. And so I have 12 others that you can look through and be like, okay, this one fits the party well. I can give them this treasure instead. There's also a bunch of new NPCs in the form of the Mythians. A whole bunch of the first one is all undead monsters, and then that are called shades. They're actually a type of monster, well, type of undead. And
Mm-hmm.
then next is the Inferus, which is a bunch of demons. Which I didn't realize this before I started making this, but one thing I actually now am very annoyed about in D&D is except for fiends and hobgoblins now, there's not a good way to make a bunch of a variant group of a single type of monster. Oh, and kobolds now. Kobolds now have enough to do that with. But like, if it's goblins, there are two goblins in the monster manual:
Yeah.
goblin and goblin boss. And I'm just like, well, this is boring.
Yeah.
So now by this point, shades have like the shade, the shadeling, shade dogs, shade lurkers, a bunch of different kinds of the same kind of monster. So you can have a themed campaign where you're fighting like this type of undead, the shades, and have not just all be two different monsters.
So I think one of the things we've done a lot in our own games is use the NPCs
Mm-hmm.
and kind of like slap the goblin or orc or whatever template on there. I mean
Oh
even
yeah.
they kind of been slowly adding more.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go to third party products, then you get a bunch.
Yeah, yeah. You can find a
But
lot
the
better.
official, yeah,
Yeah, but like at the beginning, is like unless you did like, and like that's the thing. It doesn't work great with like something like goblins because if you grab a veteran and slap a goblin face on it, the players are gonna be like, "Oh, look, it's a goblin. It only has 14." No, the veteran has like 50 life.
yeah. Well, I guess there's a chart in the DMG that like gives you kind of like the template for the races to kind of
Yeah,
change.
but
They
yeah,
did
and
some of the races, some of the zombies. I've used that often.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, you can definitely make your own. But I was mainly meaning just like out of the box. There's two goblins, and
yeah,
so
yeah,
like I can easily do it. I mean, I've designed monsters from scratch. I've published 3 adventures. I can obviously make a creature for like the layman DM just starting out. If they want to make a goblin adventure, it's 2 goblins.
yeah, yeah. Well, maybe our next monster book we'll see more goblins.
20 new goblins.
It's just gonna be a book of goblins. That's it. How do you like me now, Tim? I got no
300
goblins.
300 new goblins.
Yeah,
I think I'd be either really rolling my eyes or really, really impressed if you made 300 different and interesting goblins.
yeah. That would take a magnitude of creativity. I don't think I have.
Yeah,
Uh,
because I'm
do you,
like,
do you have
after
a
a
favorite
point,
monster?
um, outside of my own creations, my favorite monster. I
Well,
don't really
let's do both. Let's do your favorite, standard monster to use and your favorite out of your creations.
probably maybe even an aboleth or a
Okay.
beholder just because it's a monster that you can actually give depth to instead of just it being it's being it's obviously you can give lots of monsters depth, but like if it's a really smart goblin, it's not a normal goblin, so that's going to be very out of the ordinary, but like an aboleth can manipulate the crap out of people.
Yeah.
and make an interesting villain
They're
or
they're in theory they're
new ally.
interesting by default.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Was I have to say my favorite is actually my main monster, the Dre, because it's just like it's so iconic of how I've imagined the shades. Because in the lore, how shades work is that they're pretty much undead spirits that have shown up, and how they get more powerful is by feeding off of each other. And so the Dre has an ability. The Shades have a lesser form. But when you deal the final damage to him, he will auto cannibalize all the Shades around him to give himself health.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yep. And it's I I am I take inordinate pride in how I name my abilities because it's called Call the Weak. I'm just like I am inordinately proud of this ability I've named.
Yeah. So then it just devours everything.
Yeah, all the other shades of just
Yeah.
kills all the players. Well, this was an unfair monster.
I like kind of envision like this vacuum cleaner style.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, obviously he wouldn't move, but it
Yeah.
like how I when I run it, how I uh, verbalize it is that normal shades also have this ability, although they can only do it to shadelings.
Yeah.
But because there is a hierarchy of shades in the book, and but so the shade, I always have it take a deep breath, and the shadeling will like turn into shadow and smoke, and it will breathe it in and regain the life. Because like
Question is,
they aren't physical beings.
the question is, can you make them go from suck to blow?
No, you uh the the shade dogs do automatically heal enemies when they heal another shade when they die.
uh,
But other than that, none of them try to help each other. They're selfish creatures.
yeah. I don't know. So, um, what is the inspiration for the shades in your world in the world that you've created? How do you use them? I guess I kind of think of shadows when I think of shade.
Yeah. Dang it, this isn't Discord. I don't know if I can send you a picture. Or if I could. Nope, I
That
don't know
not
how to do
easily.
that. But so like they are pretty much shadows. None of them have physical form except for the ones except for the Wendigos, which have
uh,
inhabited the bodies of living creatures. So like it's I find I'm inordinately proud of this. But when they die, all except for like the Wendigos have abilities that they disappear into shadow over instantly to 10 minutes, depending on how physical the creature is.
okay. Like, is it like a death curse or is it just a more of a RP thing, more of a
Oh,
visual?
it well, so by death curse, do you mean why are they shades or
No, no, no. When they die, something happens. Is it
uh,
detrimental to the people that kill them?
actually, it's funny because none of the creatures I just talked about do that. Although the creature I said that doesn't do that, the Wendigo does have a death curse. Because like,
Okay,
all the others just they're made of shadow, and so when you kill the consciousness, the power keeping the shadows together, the shadows just dissipate. But then the Wendigo, I took it from the myth of the Wendigo that hungers for human flesh, and so if you kill it directly, it can't be by a trap. So like a trap wouldn't do this, but like if you kill it directly and you fail the wisdom saving throw, the spirit of the Wendigo infects you with its hunger for one turn. Then you're compelled to attack whatever closest to you and try and eat them.
uh, oh
So
man.
if the caster gets it, he might just be in a bad position afterwards. If the melee person gets it, it can be unfortunate for their allies.
If the lizard folk get it, it's bad for their allies because they
Yeah.
literally can just hungry jaws them.
And it's funny, I kind of, not gonna lie, I kind of did this on purpose that it annoys me that intelligence is such a dump stat.
Yeah.
And so the shades, instead of like wisdom saving throws, they use intelligence saving throws. And how I justify this by the fluff is that they are actually like directly manipulating your brain. instead of like using magic on you.
Yeah, so it's intelligence is just not as useful as it has been in previous editions,
Yeah.
unless you're a wizard.
Yeah,
Uh,
except for the people who use it for casting, it's a complete dump stat.
yes, well, I guess we have the artificer now too. I forgot.
Yeah.
We've got two. We've doubled its
Well,
usefulness.
that and the arcane trickster and the eldritch knight.
The yeah, as their secondary. True that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then you have Dex, right? And Dex is the super stat.
Oh yeah, I'm just like there's so many arguments. Like I'm part of a Facebook group for D&D, and there's so many people like, oh, maybe we should like do this that makes Dex better. I'm like, no, Dex does not need to be better. It's already the best stat, except for maybe Con.
Yeah, no, I think it's even better than Con because it's
Oh, I
just like
definitely, I agree with you. There is an argument to be made for Con, but I definitely agree with you that Dex is still better. But like the only one that can even try to compete is Constitution.
I'm laughing at Doug in the chat. I actually I like dumping intelligence because I just like playing dumb characters because I just have fun with it, and it's also a lot easier for me to RP a character that's less intelligent than me than that is more intelligent. So, and also I love the meta game when I play dumb characters and make them make all the bad choices. Like my favorite one was when I was playing Jogo, which was like a urban barbarian that was raised as like a feral child on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in a cave that had brown mold. So he's like, "Oh, it's cold in here. I need fire to warm myself." And everyone else, and just made the situation worse. But I don't know. It's just me. I like to have fun with that stuff. Also, he also tried grappling a black pudding. Not his best move. But he learned, like, he makes mistakes and he does dumb things, but then he learns from them. And he doesn't do that. Then he doesn't repeat them. He does new dumb mistakes.
Yeah. Like, and to Doug's point, I as a DM, unless you've been like damaged and have 6 intelligence, I'm never gonna say your character is too stupid to do that.
Yeah.
That would be just a dick move.
Well, and that's it too. Like, is an 8 or a 9? How much less intelligent are you really than a 10?
Yeah.
And now an 8, and when you're looking at like 18s and upper tiers, like that character's like a super genius.
Yeah, like it's hard to do it on like 1-to-1 because like if I've seen some people try and compare it to like IQ as like every point is 10 points of IQ. I'm like, well, but then we have like super geniuses walking around. Even like the average adventurer with a 12 is almost a genius.
Well, we went to do a video on strength, right? And like it started out one way, but as we like delved into it more and more, it's like even the weakest character compared to the real world is actually pretty strong. It's like to make the 90-pound weakling, you literally had to have like a 3 strength. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, because like with 8 strength, you can lug around 120 pounds. That's not what the average person does. That's like what a soldier does. like your kit is like 60 pounds or something as a soldier, I think. Soldier kit weight. Google. Yeah, 60 to 100 pounds. So they are as strong as the average soldier.
and then like I mean hiking is less. But even even that, it's like a percentage of your body weight. I don't know. Ted always gives me the Boy Scout figures. Which was always brutal for him because he was like a beanpole. So you'd always have to carry like 3 times what they said he was supposed to carry.
Yeah, because I'm like, there's only so much that you need a certain amount of things to go camping. It doesn't matter how skinny you are; you need to have that much stuff.
So, how did you get into D&D or gaming?
Well, not ironically. Ironically is always misused, but funnily enough, it was actually during Boy Scouts. We had one of the older boys there, Brian, who I actually have. He is one of the thank yous in my first book because I'm like, he's literally the guy that set us all on D&D and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was at just a camp out and we were bored and we started doing this impromptu kind of without books D&D thing. And that's it got started and we went from there and it evolved into actual D&D. The first one was really really informal. We we didn't have any dice, we didn't have any character sheets, we didn't have any books. But after that, we evolved more into actually using the D&D rule sets and having that kind of thing.
How far did you go through the Boy Scouts? I'll ask for Ted.
I went all most of my friends actually got to Eagle. I got to first class, and after that, I was just like, I am good here because
Yeah.
I'm like, for me, it was never about making Eagle Scout. Like if I got into shouting range, I would have put in the extra effort to get there because it's a nice thing to have. But I was like, for me, it was just me being there, having fun with my friends, going camping and doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think Ted was an Eagle Scout. My son's an Eagle Scout.
Yeah,
I never did the Boy Scouts, so
I think Andy's both my brothers are Eagle Scouts. My grandpa, my dad, my
oh no, you come from a long line.
yeah, and so like my dad just knew that because of my personality type, I was going just to hang out with friends, and he was okay with that.
Yeah.
and like I said, I was like, if I got close enough, I'd be like, what merit badges do I want to take this summer camp? And I just chose the ones I was interested in. If I had gotten close to having the requirements for Eagle Scout, I would have put in the extra effort to get to Eagle Scout because it's something you can kind of brag about. But I was like, I'm not actually close to it, so
It looks good. I think it looks good on a resume.
Yeah.
College or just a regular resume. Also,
yeah,
they pay you more in the military if you're an Eagle Scout.
they don't pay you more. You get a promotion if you have it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's still true, but it used to be. Like
it is, and that promotion comes with money. So
yeah. So I mean, it's not just a pay increase. It's you get a promotion which comes with a pay increase.
Yeah.
The pay increase isn't from being an Eagle Scout.
Yeah, I tried convincing my son to join the military. Like, you'll get more money. He wasn't having it. I mean, we're forever at war, so I don't kind of blame him either.
My brother's friend Trevor went into the military and got the promotion for being an Eagle. He also got a promotion for like getting like he and his three friends, like him and two friends, were already going to go into the military, and so they signed up through him, which got him another promotion.
Oh, nice.
And so he ended up with like 2 or 3 free promotions because he also did.
It's like a pyramid scheme, but for the military.
Okay, it's like quite a pyramid scheme. After they signed up, he didn't like get part of their pay or anything.
Well, that's the next level.
Wait a minute, what's going on here?
You had mentioned you have your own class of fiends as well.
Yeah, the Inferis. They live on our. Wait for our amazing naming, Inferum.
Yeah.
They're similar to shades that they eat each other, but where shades eat like shades feed off of each other's power and leave if you were a personality that had 10 power, arbitrary numbers, and the other shade came up and ate you, you'd be a personality left with 0 power. Whereas the Inferis literally consume each other, and so now they become one body with 2 personalities in it, and that it grows increasingly high. So the more powerful Inferis tend to also be insane.
Huh.
Because they have a whole bunch of personalities in them.
You say insane, I say internally diverse. And how many different Infernus did you make?
Right now I think I have like 12.
What is the challenge range on those?
from like 2 to 8.
Yeah. So what do Infernus do when they're not eating each other?
Find each other to eat.
Oh, that's their primary
Like, I mean,
objective.
like there are two different, like, there are two kinds of Infernus, really.
Uh,
Inferus, the ones that are just insane slash animalistic, and so they do just go around looking for each other to eat.
yeah.
The ones that are intelligent all serve a creature called Serapis, who is the most powerful in Ferris, because he actually has a single personality. And I'm not going to reveal if he does it through sheer willpower or because he's just, for some reason, really powerful. But he is in complete control of his body. He doesn't have any dissenting voices, be that through tyranny over the other personalities or just him being alone in there. And so he's the leader and he's really powerful. And so if he shows up and tells even the crazy ones to do something, they listen because otherwise he kills them.
So how do you handle it if someone like tries to use mind reading on these or detect thoughts on these guys?
They're just gonna get a handful of different voices. They're probably going to be able to piece together like its intent, but it's
Mm.
gonna be very confusing.
Yeah, I think like so kind of like psionics in earlier editions with fiends, well demons specifically, it was like their defense against sonic intrusion was just to let people in.
You want to come in? You don't want to be here, but come on in.
Yeah, you're gonna regret this really fast.
Yep. Oh,
Uh,
this is actually, it does go all the way down to half a challenge rating because of the swarms of Selen that I have,
yeah,
which are
so,
actually I put this in their description, but they're the reason there's not just one giant, completely insane Inferis in the middle of Inferum, because the Selen don't actually create, they don't take other personalities into themselves. They just make more little Selen that go around in a swarm and eat wounded Inferis.
what is your method when creating monsters? Do you start with the story and RP elements first? Do you work out from mechanics first?
It depends on if I have. It completely depends on the monster. Sometimes I'm like, I need X for the adventure. Like, I need a ranged Inferis, or I need a tanky Inferis. Sometimes it is, I already have an idea of what a creature is, and then I'll just either, sometimes I'll actually I tell my artist, and then he sends me back the picture, and then I make a monster based off of what I see. And
Okay.
sometimes it is like, I need a very weak Inferis. I need to make one of these. And so I start with the stats, and then I think of, okay, why is this thing in existence? So it is very variable depending on what I have, such what I need.
And when it comes to creation, where's the fun for you? What parts do you enjoy most? Mucking around with the mechanics or the story elements?
Um, that's a hard one. Maybe very slightly the mechanics. Also, I also like to feel clever when I name things, like abilities,
Yeah.
because not to give anyone a sneak peek or anything, but there is one that I am stupidly proud of. That because it's basically it's a representation of the insane in Ferris.
Hmm.
That it doesn't actually, like, it's there because Serapis has commanded it to be here, but it doesn't want to be alive because it's a whole bunch of arguing personalities that can get almost nothing done. It, and so its only ability
Did you
is
just describe our political system?
pretty much, but its only ability is to explode.
Yeah.
And so I have been I'm inordinately proud of this, but one of its passive ability is called the escape. When it dies, a Selen swarm will show up from its body. They're the little individual souls, pretty much.
Hmm.
And then its only ability is called of death. And so when you put those together, it's the escape of death. And I'm like, I am too proud of this, way more proud of this than I should be.
Listen, if we can't amuse ourselves, who can we amuse?
Yep. So yeah, the of death is when it explodes. It's the ability to just explode and
I know I've definitely done that when naming things. It's just like, how many pop culture references or puns can you like squeeze into a thing and to have fun with it?
Yep.
We gotta find our joy where we find it. So you said you've got basically 6 adventures in this series,
Yes.
kind of in mind and ready to go.
Yes.
And what level did you say it ended at?
It ends at level 8.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Well, because each part is about 4 to depends on how fast / slow you go, but each part is about 4 or so sessions.
Okay. So, so 24 sessions. That'll keep you busy for a while.
Yeah.
So do you prefer slow progression in your games?
Kind of.
Yeah.
But I was trying to make it more for the general, and like I was ahead of the time because back in 3.5 I did not use not levels, exp. I was just like, this is stupid. I don't care how, like, if it's a combat based session, sure, whatever. And people want to get stronger by killing things, sure.
Yeah.
But I was just like, I don't want people to be ahead of like the curve because they've taken a side quest. So it doesn't make sense for it to be based off of experience if they go out and spend. If this isn't WoW, admittedly, that wasn't an analogy back then. But
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want people going out and just grinding on boars and then coming in and me being like, well, this is going to be easy and boring.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know when we actually changed, if it was 5e or not, and it's for similar reasons, but more like from the real world perspective of like, I don't want to penalize my friend because he got called into work or couldn't get a babysitter.
Yeah. I despise level variance. Outside of if you get like screwed by some magic or something, I am never going to have a level variance. Now, like if you make a deal with something to save someone and it costs you a level, that's different, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you mentioned that because I did like award a warlock level to a player's character in one of our games, so they're like one level higher than everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like or with the deck of many things. Oh, I received one of the greatest compliments I've ever gotten after the party got access to a deck of many things, and because he was like, Tim, your campaign is the only one I've ever been in that didn't just break after a deck of many things showed up.
They do have an effect on a campaign.
Yeah, and I was like, you're probably right actually, because they're fun as an idea. In practicality, they are awful.
They definitely throw a monkey wrench in whatever's going on. Now, was it because you had lucky draws, conservative players that weren't like, I'm going to draw 6 cards?
Oh, okay. I didn't have anyone try to draw 6 cards, but just because I've been doing it professionally for like 3 years now, but I've been DMing for like 20 some years. I mean, like, in the first bit when I was like 10, it wasn't good DMing, but I have been DMing for more than most people have, so I know how to adapt to things. I know how to better balance things around players. Especially, I played in 3.5, so I'm used to very powerful players.
What prompted you to put a deck of many things in?
They really wanted one.
Oh, okay. That'll do it.
So, like, they were dealing with this really powerful creature that, for me, it's a lot about logic. They were dealing with this really powerful mage that I was like, he would reasonably have access to this. And so they made a deal with him, and I was like, okay then, well, if you guys want to deck many things. And like, these weren't like new players that were like, oh, it's gonna be so fun. They were long-time players who knew the risks of a deck of many things, but they still
Yeah.
wanted one. So I
They
was
just
like,
wanted to break your game.
all right.
What was what was the worst card to get pulled?
One of them got the Void.
That's the one that steals the soul?
Yeah. But then next, one of them got Fates, and so they undid that, and I was like, oh, well, that could have been an adventure, but...
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Did he at least get a jelly donut for his soul? Souls, turns out you don't really need them after all.
Turn into a Homer Simpson. Make a deal for a donut for your soul.
Yeah, there was a series that I was reading, and like that was like the whole impetus for the series was like he was trying to get back his soul, or I don't know if he was trying to get it back or not lose it. One of those.
Mm-hmm.
Ends up losing it, and it's like, I guess I didn't need it after all. It's like literally nothing changed. Now it might be different after he like dies, but as things were, he's just like, yeah, I guess I didn't need this after all.
I mean, that would very much depend on your on some philosophical about whether our free will comes from our brains or our souls.
True. It was a series set in the Warhammer Fantasy. I won't say what it is, just so it doesn't like give away spoilers or whatever. So we are just past the hour mark. Final thoughts before we head on out?
Have fun.
Sounds good. As always, there's links in the description. Go check Tim out on Roll20 or check out his products over on Drive Through RPG. Until next time, stay nerdy.
Have a good one.